That's the moment the Party for Socialism and Liberation says was inaudible in the critical incident video showing the police shooting that killed Adam Sykes.
Today we tell Mike Brown and the ruling class that we won't be divided. We've seen these tricks before. Immigrants are not dangerous. Capitalism is.
Welcome to another episode of Naptown People's Radio, a weekly podcast brought to you by the Indianapolis branch of the Party for Socialism and Liberation. I'm your host, Dani Abdullah, and I'm here joined by my comrade and co-host,
Derek Ford.
We're here to guide you through the pressing issues facing Indianapolis from the perspective of our people, not our oppressors. And as organizers involved in these issues, we're not just talking about the news, we're making it happen. So today we're going to be joined by our comrade, Lindsey Holtgrave. Lindsey is an activist and organizer and was a lead organizer with Answer Indiana during the highest stages of the recent Intifada. Lindsey pulled up to the podcast today to talk about multiple different laws that have went into effect attacking the people of Indiana and our democratic rights as a whole, but also many of our most vulnerable neighbors. So I think it was a really good and entertaining interview, and I'm excited for everybody to hear that. Now, before we hear from Lindsey, we're going to hear from Derek in the Naptown Breakdown.
Well, it's good to be back after the last special episode where we were celebrating our 6 months, the first 6 months of the year in our new Indianapolis Liberation Center. One of the things we've been talking about on this podcast, because it's been a determining factor in our global and local situation, has been the U.S. war on Iran, illegally declared, illegally everything. On February 28th, where they assassinated, of course, the spiritual leader of so many people. I told you, I think, I didn't say this on the podcast. I was in the gym, and I had a T-shirt of Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, the president of Iran for 2 consecutive terms. And this guy stopped and he was like, "Who's on your shirt?" And I was like, that can be an intense moment,
Yeah.
And I was like, "It's Mahmoud Ahmadinejad." He's like, "Where did you get it?" And I was like, "Oh, the Iranian-American Friendship Committee in New York City." They were like, and I was like, "What do you think about it?" And he was like, "They just killed my leader. It's so amazing to see you wearing that. Brings me so much hope, Just to show you how profound of an effect that had, because it wasn't just like a leader for Iran, but for so many people, And of course, the funeral was, just yesterday. But that is not just some issue that's taking place, in the Strait of Hormuz or in, West Asia. It's taking place right here. So Mirror India has a report about how the U.S. war on Iran is basically starving and potentially putting Indiana corn farmers out of business. So, they talked to Tom Murphy, he's a first-generation farmer. So in January, he was paying about $3 a gallon of diesel, right, to operate his tractors and combines. And today he's paying $5.23, so more than double from 6 months ago.
Yeah.
And in farming, the margins, especially if you're a small farmer, aren't super high. So it's not like you have a lot to cut into, right? So as a result, he's had to cut back on using fertilizer on the 4,000 acres of soybeans on his farm. So if you think it's not just because we spend bombs, to murder people, innocent people in Iran, that we could invest here, right? It's actually, even when we do that, we are still hurting people in Indiana.
Absolutely.
And it shows that we really can't have an analysis of Indiana without having an analysis of the overall international situation. And now, speaking of that, of course, it's, the memorandum of understanding, which we did talk about briefly the last episode, between the U.S. and Iran, it's on shaky ground because Trump's threats continue, right? Even after losing the war. But I think it's worth going over some of the 14 points that are declared and basically conceded by the U.S. So, of course, there's the immediate and permanent termination of military operations on all fronts, covert, including Lebanon, which is really crucial because, the U.S. and Israel have been waging a war on Lebanon for really decades. And each state must respect each other's sovereignty and territorial integrity, which is like the basics of international
bare
law.
minimum.
Jesus, yeah. The United States is also to lift all naval blockades within 30 days. And they are going to undertake a reconstruction plan of at least $300 billion to terminate all types of sanctions, waiving oil export sanctions, and releasing Iran's frozen funds on implementations. Iran has so much money, just like Venezuela does. They have so much gold in the Bank of England. They just can't touch, how is that? Imperialism, I guess, is the answer. So, and then the declared, aims of the war, of course, right? The total destruction of the leadership and regime change were not even they weren't even broached, really. I mean, let alone was there any significant progress, that we can measure towards their accomplishment, to bring out the educator in me, or the critical educator in me. And then they also direct the U.S. Treasury to waive sanctions on Iranian oil exports and associated banking, insurance, and shipping immediately upon signing. So that means that Iran can finally, sell oil to the U.S., to Cuba, to Venezuela, and they do that on the basis of solidarity, just like when, Hugo Chavez was giving poor people in the U.S., cheap gas, cheap fuel so they could stay warm. That's what Iran is doing. And, supported by other countries, of course. So, this is, of course, not just the result of this war. It's the result of the heroic struggle the Iranian people have, put up since 1979, and 1968, even before, against U.S. imperialism. And that just shows that, with all those sacrifices, the people win in the end. And so I think that's, just an amazing thing. Of course, they're also emboldened by this, the U.S. position is weakened. And so why stop here, right? You finally just admitted basically to the world that you have been preventing us from engaging in free trade, from being a normal trading partner to the world. So, let's keep going further. At least we will keep going further in this show, exposing that hypocrisy. Speaking of, free trade and democracy, the things that this country touts a lot about, I want to talk a little bit about the data centers, because the Indianapolis's Metropolitan Development Commission met and to impose or to suggest, right, rules or constraints, regulations on proposed data centers that would be, constructed in Indianapolis and Marion County. So there were 20 minutes of public comment. Amazing, 20 minutes. I'm sure. I mean, there were a lot more people there than 20. But the two main things that they're really bragging about, for real, they're bragging about this, is that the decibel level allowed for these data centers would be reduced from 66 decibels to 55. The other is that the distance from, schools and parks and preserves would go from 200 to 400. Now, before they sent this off to the city county council, they eliminated the sound restrictions, the decibel restrictions. So basically all we have is something that's it can't be, more than 400 feet, within 400 feet of a school or these other things. Yeah. So that's pretty weak, right? Yeah. And the next city county council meeting will be there. We should show up. People should show up and voice their opposition, complete moratorium until there's a single study done on this, right? Not a single study has been done. And also there's a grandfather clause where all the existing ones this doesn't apply to. So, yeah. All right. And none of these people are elected. Let me just say that. Hogsett appoints them all.
Yeah.
Hogsett, Mr. Clean, who, it's got the top list of donors that he owes, the contracts to, who, OPHS is, some people were calling for like they're freezing a shutdown until they get their act together, right? And by the way, I shared this with Dani. Maybe we could put this in the show notes, but you should read the OHPS's year in review and what they claim credit for and how they claim credit for it, because there's literally no evidence to back up a single thing that they say, but yet they are like, we reduced violent crime by like 50%.
Yeah.
But it's like, how?
How?
And like, you're the sole contributing factor to that. And then it's just like a bunch of pictures, it's actually, it's kind of laughable, but also that's, I guess, it makes me feel a lot better about our packet, fundraising proposals for our fundraising dinner.
I was just thinking that. I was like, we put so much time and effort into those. And
we actually do stuff that impacts people, and we can we can give testimonies and evidence. But they're like, yeah, we were, I'm like, you didn't, what? They're like, we cleaned, a certain number of homeless encampments. In other words, they destroyed a certain number of homeless communities. Right. They're like, everybody was housed. But it's like, yeah, what does that mean? How long were they housed for? Were they given a house? No.
Right.
You just put them up in some shelter. They probably, half of them probably weren't even
they
eligible.
They were housed in prison, jail.
Exactly.
That's where they were housed. Yeah.
So, anyways, that's a bit of an aside, but it is to show that they're totally unaccountable. And they're like, and I would not, retain my optimism, because people can do anything, but I wouldn't be surprised the fight continues after the August City County Council meeting, because I guarantee you, again, not a single person will stand up and say, I support data centers in my communities. I want one in my neighborhood, right? Everybody will be against it, and then they will vote for it. And that will just show that this is really a dictatorship. It's a dictatorship of the capitalists.
Absolutely.
The politicians do their biddings. They give us the opportunity to express our outrage and then do whatever they want, And so that's why we have to, not use that as a way to say, don't even go, because that's how we show people that this is a dictatorship. This is actually a dictatorship in action, And what we're calling is for democracy.
Absolutely.
If this happened in a socialist country, you better believe the opposite would happen.
Yeah.
And there's no silent majority, excuse, right? So yeah, that's what we got. In addition to, if I can indulge myself,
absolutely,
because of well, you know what, Dani, I'm glad you're not the director. No, Dakota can be the decider as a producer. But I think that I definitely want to touch on something that Shaka Shakur has uncovered in an expose recently published on his website, July 6th, shakashakur.org. We also republished it on ours, basically talking about how, today prison repression and the weaponization of technologies in prisons. So a lot of prisons are moving to, and departments of corrections are moving to these tablet-based systems. And in some ways they're beneficial, because you can call, I can talk to Shaka when he's in his cell, at night without the public. They're still listening to him, but, and you can kind of do text message things, right? You can have access to, music, whatever. But it's also a tool of super exploitation, because it's 4 cents per text message to access, apps. They have to pay for them, even though the apps are free to us.
Right.
And there's nothing indicating that these basically 4 or 5 monopolies that DOCs can choose from have told these app producers that they are taking them and selling them to inmates, exorbitant prices. So it's it's like ransom, right? And then as far as families and loved ones and friends like myself to even sign up, right? You have to give over proof of your driver's license, a picture of your passport, all this information. It's wait, why are you, now you're surveilling me.
Exactly.
Now you're surveilling me. And also, we're not told what databases these are going into, if the police will have access to them, if they can search them, how long they'll be stored, right? And previously, even with paper letters, you'd send a paper, letter in with maybe a photo, right? You knew that they were going to read, they were going to scan it, and then they would shred it, and then they would send the scanned copy to the inmate, right? Now they are being held for 4 years until the contract expires. So imagine I write Shaka a letter today. He gets it today, it's going to be and he gets out tomorrow, right? It's going to be in their database for 4 years after the contract ends, which who knows when that could be, right? So this doesn't just affect inmates, this affects any single person who knows somebody who's in prison or who has or who will in the future. And at the rate of incarceration in the United States, where we have 5% of the world's population and 25% of the world's prisoners, better believe it, like you're going to know somebody who's been in prison if you haven't already. And if you want to write to them, this should be a concern. This is like a serious attack on our basic civil liberties, freedom of expression. And it is weaponized against, of course, those who are politically active, jailhouse lawyers, inmates who, study the law and are able to help out other inmates beat their cases. So I would encourage people to read that article. And also we're urging people to basically call like the state inspector State Inspector General of Virginia, Consumer Affairs, because they are violating like Viapath and GTL, which is what Virginia uses. They're violating their own, what do you call them? Like rules, and agreements.
Yeah.
Not, let alone the DOCs, let alone federal guidelines. And we're also looking for legal representation because we believe we have a class action lawsuit. And we would definitely win that class action lawsuit. So shout out to, Comrade Shaka for doing this investigation, the Freedom Campaign for doing it too. The New African Freedom Campaign for, continuing to promote it and, providing Shaka with that base of support out there. But yeah, we're, it's just more of the same, right? And these data centers goes right back to that, these data centers, and Iran isn't doing this to their people. Like,
no, they're not.
They're not building data centers to, listen, that's the image we get. But it's actually here where that's happening.
Yeah, which is ironic. I think when you were talking about the data centers and how they have to be like 400 feet away from like historic sites or like schools. And then in the interview, listeners will hear in the interview with Lindsey how like people who are unhoused in Indianapolis, like they get like a warning and then they have to be within 500 feet of like wherever they were before. And I'm like, so we're requiring human beings to like move further away from where they were just like sleeping or wherever they found some kind of semblance of safety, however safe you can be when you're outside. But like data centers like can be closer to like schools.
Yeah.
Like that's wild. That's wild that we are like putting more restrictions on human beings than we are putting on something that is literally like killing the environment, harming us. Like that's amazing that like we care less about children than we do about like a building that is harming us. And to go back to like, Iran also and like the impact that it, and I was making this joke to like Derek before about like, what is Indiana going to do without corn? But like, I'm also being serious of like, actually Indiana, like that's where a lot of like our money comes from. And I'm a Hoosier. I love corn. I don't really know anybody who like doesn't like corn, but, the United States government has this like false narrative that they care about the farmers, that they care about small business owners, that they care about, the people who are making this country what it is and actually running this country. And yet this man is describing like how he's having to like, okay, I have to decide what's the priority today because he doesn't have enough money. And I think so many different people in this country can identify with that of like, the cost of living continues to rise higher and higher. And like, okay, what's the priority right now? Is the priority, like getting to work, or is it eating? Is the priority like paying this bill, or is it this bill? And that certainly should not be something that a person who is literally growing our food should have to think about. That's not something that any of us should have to think about, but like the people who are growing our food are wondering how are they going to actually grow the food? Like, bruh, like we're cooked. Like what's
or like why don't we vote on any of this?
Yeah.
Like should we should we subsidize farmers or should we subsidize AI data centers?
Yeah.
Nobody's that's like out of the realm of possibility.
Like, of course. Like why? I feel like the farmer should be the priority here. And I feel like I don't know anyone who would disagree with that.
Yeah. And if you're out there, send us an email.
Or don't.
We'll block you. No,
right,
no. I mean, I would be interested to hear that counter argument, because I agree with you. I don't think you can conceively make that.
Yeah.
Because also AI data centers don't make food.
They don't make food.
We need food to eat. So unless you're
I literally need food.
Yeah.
Like, what are we? I don't even know what this AI data center is doing other than like polluting the air, polluting the water, like
providing my students junk ass information.
Right. I mean, like, what are we talking about here? Yeah. And shout out to Comrade Shaka for always putting in the work, always educating us and informing us of things that like, I'm always amazed when he's like, yeah, and this thing is happening. And I'm like, how did you find that out? Like, how do you know that? I'm always being educated by Shaka. But like, I this episode in particular is just like a lot of, and we talk about revolutionary optimism on here, and we're going to continue because I feel like this is kind of like a heavy episode of like the different like ways that the state is continuing to try and repress us and continuing to try and attack us on multiple different fronts and multiple different like vulnerable populations, homeless people and incarcerated people. But like, this is why we have this podcast to talk about these things and to like, okay, how can we organize? Yeah. How can we continue to fight back? Because if we didn't know these things were happening and if we weren't coming together to fight them, then like, we really would be cooked. Like I made that joke, but like, we really would be like kind of ass out at this point, like if we weren't coming together to figure out what can we do, what has been done already and what can we continue to do to fight back against all of these different fronts that are happening. So.
Yeah. And how can we get that analysis out there that like, it's easy to say, like, obviously all these things are connected. We can feel it in our bones, as we're reading like, yeah, these things are connected, but it takes more than that to build a movement. That's spontaneous knowledge. We got to like make it real theoretical knowledge that all people, when I say theory, people are like, whoa, but no. Everybody's a theorist. I mean, my dog is theorizing all the time. He's like trying.
Shout out to Felix.
Yeah, shout out to Felix. For real though, like he's theorizing like my latest moves, and he's analyzing them, and he's coming up with like, all right, I know when he moves like this and that, and that then this is coming. Like he's 10 steps ahead of me. So theory is not some like thing, like high convoluted thing, right? But we have to have an analysis and a theoretical analysis in order to properly intervene in those things. And that's another reason why we have this podcast, because we can only do that collectively. And so through these discussions that happens, through discussions with people who listen to the podcast, who come into the center and volunteer, that's how all this happens. So we will win. Don't hate the media, become the media, they say.
Who says that? I like that. I don't know if anybody says that.
No, it's definitely saying, yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
Maybe it might be Jello Biafra from Dead Kennedys.
Okay.
We'll see.
Okay.
We'll see.
All right. I believe you.
After a quick break, we will be right back, and I will have a definitive answer for you.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
And we're back on Naptown People's Radio. So I am here with local organizer and activist Lindsey Holtgrave, who is an organizer here at the Indie Liberation Center, and she's actually also putting together our Revolutionary Education Reading Group at the Indie Liberation Center, which is on Sundays at 2. So you can check that out. You can meet Lindsey in person. And Lindsey is going to be talking to us about international, national, and local laws that went into effect recently. But welcome, Lindsey. Hey.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for being here. For those of us listeners who are not aware, there were a few. There were actually not a few. There were like a lot of laws that just went into effect here recently. Let's start with international. What has happened internationally?
Yeah, so on July 1st, the state passed a law that prevents people from quote unquote dangerous countries, and their examples were China and Russia, to buy property here in Indiana, and makes it so that they have to go through background checks in order to enter quote unquote sensitive programs in colleges like microbiology or engineering.
What is the do you know what's the reasoning for that? What's the background for that? Like how are they justifying that? Because that just sounds, racist.
Yeah, Todd Rokita is racist, I would say. I don't think he likes immigrants based off of some of the things that he's done. So that's one thing, that's a very surface level thing. But they reveal a lot by choosing specifically Russia and China to focus on. It really just feels like a reinvented Red Scare to me. They're focusing on China because, of course, they don't want China to succeed in any way, especially in our state. But Russia is kind of maybe a more confusing one to lump in there.
Yeah.
But, I've had conversations with people who genuinely think that Russia is desperate to return to a socialist state, which is not the case.
That is not true.
It's not at all.
Yeah.
So I think they are relying on that a little bit of people being historically or politically unaware or unsure. But also Russia is a country that isn't playing by the U.S.'s rule. Neither
is China. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So these are two countries that are defying U.S. hegemony, the global dominance of U.S. Rule and order. So of course our government is going to retaliate in any way that they can.
I wonder if, and this is where I would need Lucas to chime in, but Lucas is not here. But I'm wondering about Russia in particular and kind of their military force as well, and kind of I feel from what I do understand, Russia is kind of a force to be reckoned with as well. And I wonder if some of that fear is coming from that as well. I don't know why Russia would be trying to take over Indiana in particular. But I wonder if there's some fear there of Russia is trying to come out on top, even if it's not to become socialist, but to be this capitalist force. I wonder if there's some fear coming from that as well.
Well, and okay, maybe that's the case. But to me, when I think of a dangerous country, I think of Israel. I don't hear them banning Israel from buying property in Indiana.
Right, which Todd Rokita is not racist against Israeli immigrants.
Of course not.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Man. Okay. So we've got that happening, which we've seen these tricks before, right? This is kind of a story as old as time. If you look at the history of the United States, banning certain people from buying land is a tactic that has been used before. So that's very interesting. But yeah, I think we'll probably go further in this on another episode. Right now, this is just a little maybe a sneak peek of things. But we'll probably go further into that on another episode. But okay, so that's what's a law that went through, and these are all Indiana laws that we're talking about, right? And how they're impacting us in different ways. So that's internationally. What about nationally? What's going on
nationally? So of course, immigration and how ICE operates in our state is once again being revised. So there's two things. they are making it so that the Senate is like prioritizing making sure that immigrants cannot have access to social programs like Medicaid, SNAP, any of those. Because God forbid immigrants have food. That would just be so awful. That is sarcasm. And then also requiring local law enforcement to cooperate and collaborate with ICE as needed. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, two things there. One, I'm thinking about, I can never remember his name, but there's a gentleman who works with or volunteers with Indiana Aid. And at a rally, probably last year, he talked about like, if the United States, and he was kind of joking, but he was also serious. He was like, if the United States gets rid of like immigrants, then like, where you gonna get your food? And he was, like I said, he was joking, but he was also serious, and he's an immigrant also. But like, I'm thinking about the irony of banning people from getting food that we wouldn't have if it wasn't for them putting in the work for us to have the food. Like,
yeah, I was always taught to not bite the hand that feeds you.
Literally.
I don't know if Todd has thought about that recently.
Yeah. Like I mean, like I worked in fast food. My mom, you know, she was like a waitress for a period of time. And so I've always just been like, was raised of like being kind to the people who are serving you and things like that. Right. But like, not that I'm going to like tell any like back, you know, like secrets or anything, but like you should be kind to the people who are feeding you. I'm just gonna put it like that because these people are like handling your food, and like this is like a metaphor for a bigger thing, but it's just like, what are we gonna do without the people who are like actually out there like taking care of the food? And it's bigger than that, right? Like even if they weren't, not all immigrants are handling our food. That's an overgeneralization, right? But like, that's just like ironic. There's just a lot of irony that's going on there. But like, I'm thinking about this clip that went viral of Ronald Reagan, Jesus. And I think Richard Nixon was also in it, and maybe like Bush. I can't remember. It was a bunch of people who I don't like. But like in it, they were talking about immigrants. They were talking about immigrant children specifically. And they were like, this was like the 80s, should immigrant children, undocumented children, it was the question of like, should they be able to have education? And like all of them were like, I mean, we don't want them here, but they should get education. They're already here. They're kids, right? And I just think of like how far, like I'm like, the bar's in hell, y'all. Like Ronald Reagan was talking about children should have access to education even if they're undocumented. Like, and these people who are like who are misleading this country now are like fans of Ronald Reagan and like, and they're talking about not feeding children.
And this law was like under like government waste and fraud protection. So apparently it's even like a waste, or, you know, maybe it's fraudulent.
Wow. Okay. To feed people. Okay. Cool.
And I mean, according to Mike Braun, in his nuclear family statement, like it's because of the weak families that they're reliant on social programs. So it's either immigrants or your weak family, your choice, but you're not getting food. You're not getting government support. Kind of makes you wonder what you're paying your taxes for.
There's nothing wrong with the audio right now. I'm just like so quiet because I'm just like disgusted. You know, sometimes I'm like, there's nothing that they could do to make me more pissed off and upset. And then I hear stuff like that. Wow. Okay. All right. And like going to the law enforcement as well. I know we were talking earlier before we started recording about like 287G, which like went into effect in 1996, which specifically talks about like how law enforcement is able to identify and process removable undocumented immigrants, and have pending or active, who have pending or active criminal charges. And so like that's been in effect since 1996. So like with this law, which that probably just needs to be revamped because I don't really know what 287G was doing. But like with this law that has gone into effect, is there going to be anything different? I'm assuming it's going to be worse for undocumented people, but like, what are some things that listeners should be like aware of? Are there any highlights in particular that?
I think we should be concerned about local leadership, acting powerless and saying, "Oh, it's not in my hands. It's not my problem." The state law is telling them that they have to cooperate. And to me, that's just going to cause a greater divide between leadership and the people, because the people are doing things. The people are taking to the streets when these things happen. The people are willing to fight. Our leadership isn't. So to me, I just kind of want to say like, good luck to them, because this is a deeply unpopular thing.
Yeah. I remember having a conversation he's a state trooper. This guy I'm thinking about. And I was his therapist. That's why I was having a conversation with him. But he talked about like how it's up to their discretion, actually, like what they're going to do and what they're not going to do, which I thought was so interesting. He and I had a lot of interesting conversations, as you can probably. We had a lot of interesting conversations. I'm no longer his therapist, but I remember him saying that like it was like it's up to their discretion. And I don't know if that's like a thing just for state troopers. I don't know if that's all law enforcement. I didn't ask because it wasn't relevant to the conversation. But yeah, like you can, cops, and the umbrella term for cops, have that up to their discretion of like what are they going to do and what are they not going to do, which I think is like fascinating. And on here we've talked about like how those who are in the military, it's not up to their discretion what they do and what they don't do. If they don't do the order that is given to them, they can go to prison, right? Which is why in the Party for Socialism Liberation, there is a distinction between like how we interact with those who are in the military and how we interact with those who are cops, right? Because like in the military, like you sign this piece of paper, most likely you're poor, you're trying to get money for your family, you sign this piece of paper, you sign your life away for like 4 years, 8 years, whatever the case may be, right? And then if you don't do what they tell you to do, you go to prison. Whereas a cop, you can just quit. First off, you could just quit. You don't have to do this, actually. And even within your job, it's up to your discretion of what you do and what you don't do. Like, you can decide, no, actually, I don't want to arrest this person today. I don't actually want to be I'm not supposed to cuss on here, but like, I don't want to be a piece of crap today, right? Like, that's wild to me that you can do that. And y'all still go to work every day and y'all do this.
You keep getting more funding too.
Yeah, and you keep getting more funding, which is amazing. Yeah. So, okay. All right. So we got that to look forward to. I know also like there has been a change in like how they're targeting undocumented immigrants as well, right? Like I think you mentioned that before of like it's not like geographical anymore. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So let's think back to January, February. We had 2 kind of like groundbreaking events happen. We had 2 general strikes. One being after Renee Good was murdered, and then the second after Alex Preddy. People mobilized against the 2,000-man troop of ICE agents that were terrorizing the city, who was using softwares, I'm pretty sure, like through Palantir, to find high confidence zones of when high confidence meaning like very confident that person is going to be at that location. And so they would go to a neighborhood that has a lot of high confidence hints on it, and then they would just hit that whole block and take as many people as they could. But, people don't like that. And the people have power. And really, they put a stop to it. Like, they don't want to put it that way. They don't want to act like they withdrew their troop, but they did.
Yeah.
And a lot of bad stuff happened. A lot of people were still kidnapped that day. People died. But at the end of the day, like, that was a success. That was a win on the people's side. But of course, like, they're going to have to adapt their strategy, and they're still trying to get the same amount of arrests. They're just not doing it in very targeted, like, geographic spaces, so that they're a little bit harder to track down.
Okay. And I mean, that's also why, like, we, like, organizers and, like, activists and, like, revolutionaries have to, like, always be willing to, like, change what we're doing as well, right? Like, we have to change our tactics in order to, like, meet the people's needs, whatever that looks like, right? And I think as these laws are coming out, we got one more to go over, but, like, as these laws are coming out, like, this is important for people to, like, to think about. And okay, how can we change our programming? How can we change, like, what do we need to study more of to, like, be able to understand how to meet this moment? And because it's not like, and I think it's a reminder that, like, change is happening and progress is happening. And, like, we talked about this on the last episode of, like, some people are feeling like there's a lull in the movement and, like, there's nothing happening. And I think this is a really good example of, like, no, there's definitely stuff happening, right? Because, like, the law is changing and capitalism is always evolving. It's this, like, man, what's the little monster's name in Hercules, where, like, you cut the head off? I don't remember, but, like, if you ever seen Hercules and, like,
I just got asked this yesterday.
Have you never seen Hercules?
I've never.
Jesus. Okay, well, we gotta watch Hercules. Anyway, there's this scene where Hercules, he's like, okay, I'm a hero, whatever, and he, like, goes to fight this, like, monster, and he cuts his head off, and then, like, 3 more heads pop out. And, like, that's how I think about capital. Man, now I gotta look up what that monster is called. But it's like that. I'm literally looking this up. I'm so sorry. Monster and Hercules. Y'all can edit this out. I'm like,
Isn't
Hydra,
because that's in Marvel too.
Yeah. Hydra. Yeah. Capitalism is like Hydra, right? Like, and so what Hercules ended up having to do was, like, he had to go in that, and he had to, like, like, pretty much, like, go inside of it and, like, stab it and da-da-da-da. Yeah, you can't keep cutting the head off because it's just more going to grow. You got to go inside of it. You got to go deep inside of it. And I did not realize I was going to be making a metaphor out of Hercules today. Here we are.
But that makes me think of people who are, like, low-key wishing Trump is going to just, like, keel over one day. I'm like, that's just one head.
Yeah.
Like, we got to get inside the belly of this beast.
Absolutely.
And take it down.
Literally.
Like, permanently.
We got to go inside the belly
Let's not be cute about it.
Yeah. Trump is just, like, a head on Hydra. And you cut him off.
There's still going to be Todd Rakitas.
Right.
There's still going to be JD Vances.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let me be clear. I'm not telling anybody to cut off Trump's head. Do not take this audio and say that. Dani Abdullah, no, I didn't. No, I did not. I didn't tell anybody to do that at all. So let's just be clear. Okay. But okay, so there's also some, like, I mean, this is all Indiana laws that have been passed July 1st, but, like, there's local as well. So what's going on locally?
As of July 1st, the homelessness ban and the encampment ban went into effect. So sleeping on public property, putting up tents, homeless encampments, like, are now by law illegal. So I'm pretty sure the way that they're addressing this, because they know that this is unpopular, is, oh, well, like, it's the police officer's responsibility to give them options. Like, here's a shelter here, there's a shelter there, and give them service recommendations. If they're found again within the same, like, 500 feet radius, I believe, they can be fined because homeless people have $500 to just cough up. So yeah, so the police officers not only are going to have to like work with ICE, they're also going to have to deal with this. And while I don't really like the cops, I'm assuming you can imagine that. I'm not a fan of the cops. So I may be a bit biased here, but I used to be an EMT. And so I kind of worked with people who were interested in being cops, or, you know, I talked to cops. And while, yes, they're very racist and kind of nasty people, they're also pretty lazy. So, I mean, like, I just think, like, you know, like the whole ICE thing, like, it's kind of, you know, if it's up to them on whether they do it, this whole homeless ban is concerning and it's very scary. But they're having to, like, reinforce it, I'm pretty sure, because they're going to have to meet quotas, which is my concerning part with it. Because I feel like cops, they'd rather just be sitting down, not doing anything. But if you make it so that their paycheck depends on it, that's when it gets pretty scary.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so, like, then who is this benefiting? We're trying to meet a quota. Like, the cops are supposed to be providing resources, but they also have to meet a quota here. So I'm like, okay, so are we, what are we doing? Are we trying to help people? Or are we not trying to help people?
You know, I don't know if you know this, but Indianapolis is apparently a tourist town. They're trying to make it one.
They've been trying to make it one since the 60s,
yes,
actually.
Yes, they have. Oh my gosh, I was just saying that. Yeah. So yeah, like you have to make, you know, I'll be on TikTok and every so often I'll get some local hits, you know, it'll be like Indianapolis. And I'll look in the comments and people are like, oh, that's your problem. You were downtown Indianapolis at night. Like, oh my God, that's so dangerous, which is goofy. Like I understand. Okay, let me not. But I just think like they understand, like our political leadership understand that there's negative connotations with our city, our safety. And so they think that making it visually less like upsetting, because no one likes to see like people sleeping under bridges.
Yeah.
You know,
because
like,
I felt bad for the people who are sleeping under
like,
bridges. Yeah.
People don't feel proud of their city when like every corner they turn, like you just see the effects of capitalism and, you know, property investors taking all of our homes. But apparently it's China and Russia that we got to worry about.
Yeah.
But I digress.
I love how that came full circle. I mean, I'm thinking about, first off, those people who make those comments of like, yeah, well, you were downtown Indianapolis at night. I'm like, so first off, you just don't go outside.
Okay.
Like,
okay.
First off, you don't go outside. I was telling a comrade about this who like dropped me off at home. There's a park that I live on the Far East Side. I live on the real East Side. But I live on the Far East Side. There was a park that just got built like last year. It's so nice. It's so cute. And this like influencer in the city like went to the park and was like, oh my gosh, this park is so nice. Da, 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 like hyping it up. And the people in the comments are losing their minds. They're like, oh my God, you're on German church.
Oh, good grief.
Like, I'm surprised you weren't mugged. Were there heroin needles everywhere? And I was like, what the hell? I'm like, and so I was talking to this comrade about it and I was like, hey, and so I was talking about that video and I was like, I want you to just take a second and just listen to my neighborhood right now. It was silent. I was like, yeah. Mm-hmm. Don't know nothing be happening over here. like, what are we talking? Like, because it's the Far East Side. Y'all are like, obviously, people are doing drugs on every corner, and I'm like, the worst thing that I got to deal with is like right now is fireworks. Honestly.
Oh my gosh, it's terrible.
I'm like, right now is fireworks, and like kids just be doing stuff.
Oh dang!
Like, can you please get out of the road? Like, get out of the road. You see me in this car right now. Like, that's the stuff I have to worry about, which like, that's like normal standard stuff, right? You know? And so like these people who are talking about downtown Indianapolis, I'm like, do you even go downtown Indianapolis? Do you even know
Are you even from Indianapolis?
Like, are you from Fishers?
Here? Are you from Carmel? Like, are you even from Indiana? Like, are you a person? Are you a bot?
Are you a person? That's a good question. Yeah. Like, the people be chilling. We had the May Day rally and there was a homeless guy across the street from it. And I like had extra water and I gave it to him. He was like, hey, was you over there? He was like, I really enjoyed that. And I was like having that conversation. Like they just, homeless people are just normal people, but
Shocker.
you know, like unfortunately don't have a place to live.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not that deep. You know who I'm afraid of like trying to mug me and steal my money?
Oh.
Rakita. That's who I think is gonna mug me and try to steal my money. Like not the freaking homeless people. Like homeless people, if they ask me for some money, if I got it, here you go. Like,
but that really makes me think of like Lamonte and Jamar. Like the fact that like the person that they encountered downtown wasn't a homeless person.
Nope.
That drew a gun and shot him.
Yeah.
It was a white man.
Yeah. Like.
Not from Indianapolis, by the way, I'm pretty sure.
Not from not even from Indianapolis. The thugs don't even live here. The thugs don't even live in Indianapolis, actually. Like, they live in Fishers. No. Well, actually, yeah. No. In Meridian Hills.
Yeah, okay.
That's where the thugs live. They live in Meridian Hills, actually. Okay. So we've got that going on. And then, I mean... To like, and Rissa Wilson was on an episode, I don't know how many episodes ago it was, but talking about like this ban before it went into effect. Because if this is your first time hearing or you didn't hear that episode, like Rissa Wilson leads Indie Hope Packages, which is a project of the Indie Liberation Center. And so they give out hope packages or like survival kits for those who are unhoused in the city. And the idea of like criminalizing homelessness, like it's not already hard enough to like possibly be working 1 or 2 jobs and still be homeless, or, you know, dealing with, you know, a number of things that we're all dealing with, plus not having a place to live. And then you get like potentially a $500 like fee or whatever, which, and this is not me like caping for cops, but I'm just like, how are the cops supposed to know? Like, they supposed to keep track of like, oh yeah, you 500 feet from where you were last time I talked to you. They supposed to keep track of all the people that they talked to also. Like,
I wouldn't trust a cop to know what 500 feet is.
Come on, man. Like, what are we talking about? Like,
it's goofy.
Like, and I mean, like, granted, there's probably some that they might like know, but like,
but that's the dangerous part. If a cop knows you, like that's dangerous.
Absolutely.
That's how people get killed, really. Yeah. It's, you know.
Yeah. But yeah, with cops knowing who you are, I'm thinking about Adam Sykes, right? Like the cops who killed Adam Sykes knew Adam.
Exactly.
Right? Like his girlfriend talked about like the cop who ended up killing him, like harassed him multiple times, right? So you're right to that point of like, that is dangerous if a cop knows who you are and like knows where you hang out, apparently knows, right? Like, because especially if they got to meet a quota.
Exactly. Who are they going to go after first?
Yeah. What was the term that you used with ICE? You were like high confidence, right?
Yes.
Like, yeah. Right. Like,
well, and the scary thing too, I think Rissa touched on this in the episode she was on, but the corporation that our city's partnering with to enforce this law, the co-founder of Palantir, which is the software that is used for ICE, is on the board of this corporation. So as we see more and more cameras being installed, like, mind you, I live on Washington Street. They closed it down to put in like the bus lines and stuff. Yeah. Before they started working on anything, they were putting cameras up at every intersection. Yeah. So like these cameras are also going to be, I feel like, involved.
Absolutely.
In meeting these quotas.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so, I mean, just, which also goes to show you, right, this is all connected, right? So when we talk about like, you know, the war against like immigrants, and first off, immigrants can be Black also, but like it's also related to the war on like homelessness, the war on Black America, the war on like being queer in this country. Like they're all connected to one another. Like those who are like involved in stripping away our rights or trying to kill us in one regard are also responsible for trying to do that to us in another regard. But like, you know, to evoke that revolutionary optimism, like this is why we like This is why we have this podcast. This is why we like organize this, to like not just get the word out about like, okay, what is happening, but like also trying to get together and organize of like, okay, what can we do to protect each other? Because just like what you were talking about with ICE and how they're not doing geographic anymore, right? That's because of the people. That's because the people came out and were like, absolutely not. You're not going to continue to terrorize us this way. And so we're going to have to do the same thing when it comes to like people who are unhoused in the city as well, when it comes to like continuing to do that for those who are undocumented or just immigrants in general, because they actually don't care if you're undocumented. There's plenty of people who have the quote unquote correct documentation, and they're still ICE detainees right now. So that actually doesn't make a difference. And we're not really trying to do respectability politics on this podcast. Anyway. All right. So with all of that, like, again, trying to end on this note of revolutionary optimism, which is kind of the point of the podcast, right? Is there any last words that you want to give listeners?
Yeah. So I do want to kind of like lead with the fact that I feel like a little bit of a baby organizer. I've not reached my second year yet, getting close. But when I think about these things, I think about like one of my favorite protests I've ever been to, which was almost a year ago now, downtown out in front of the NBA like finals.
Yeah.
Over like 1,000 people showed up. And like when I think of like trying to find my like energy, my action, like I think of all the people there, like they were just so like energetic and ready to like, you know, bring change. Like, I don't know, they were, sorry, let me give context. Like that was like an anti-ICE rally, and that was for standing in solidarity with LA. Like there was a raid happening in LA and over 1,000 people showed up ready to march with us. They were very like militant. Like they were like not messing with the cops. We weren't antagonizing them, of course. Not starting anything physically, but let me land it. I do distinctly remember flipping off a cop. I got a little carried away, dare I say.
Oh my God.
But
they'll live.
You know, like the people, you have to trust the people. You know, the people are ready, willing, and able to fight for justice and to fight for liberation.
Yeah.
And, you know, being in the space, we're in the Liberation Center right now, like that's like the energy I try to bring with me every time I come in here. And like to the listeners, I hope that like if anything, if the system is affecting you personally, like if you have a family member like getting caught in the justice system from an unjust like cop interaction or anything like that, or any sort of community need, I hope you bring it forward to the Liberation Center, because that's really what we do. We want to work with the people where the system refuses to. So yeah.
I love that. That was great. Okay. All right. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Lindsey, for coming in and talking to us on the podcast, and also like giving us that like brief overview. Like I think we could probably do a whole episode on all of those, but so giving us that brief overview and like encouraging listeners to like also go out, do your own research, and like hit us up if you find out anything or you feel some type of way coming to the center, and you know, we would love to hear from you. And with that, we will be right back after a short break.
And we're back on Naptown People's Radio. I hope you found that segment interview with Lindsey as, you know, insightful, and you know, while the contents are disparaging, nonetheless, I find a lot of material for revolutionary optimism within that, considering that this is the first time these things have come, and they've been defeated in the past. We'll defeat them again. We just got to keep getting organized and strengthening our organizations and building alliances with other organizations on principled politics, and speaking and being accountable to each other, and speaking of being accountable to each other, I did want to note, as promised, that I did research, and Dani, the content of what she said, I believe, was something about like, I believe you. There seemed to be a bit of... Oh, my
God.
We'll leave it up to listeners. Maybe we can do a poll. Like a bit of incredulity or, like skepticism towards my assertion. But don't hate the media, become the media is a quote by Jella Biafra of the dead Kennedys. So
I did say I believed you.
I know you said it. I just depends on how you said it. So basically this, Dead Kennedys punk band, great songs, some of them, great lyrics. And basically, it's part of the DIY punk community. We have a great book actually here on DIY punk as education. People should check out, so basically it's just saying like, stop waiting for the new, like mainstream media to cover your shit, like cover it yourself. And that's why we today have so much independent media. That's why we have Nats on People's Radio. I mean, that's not the only reason, but like he was taking inspiration from the Latin American, underground broadcasts, right?
What's that?
Like Cuba, that was instrumental in the Cuban Revolution for decades before. So, so I was right. Thank you.
I didn't say you were wrong. I said I believed you. You didn't
say you were wrong.
I said I
was
believed
wrong, but
you.
You did.
I said I believed you.
But
I just had never heard that before. I'm not punk rock enough.
That's really what I wanted to hear. No, it's fine.
All right.
So, Dani, back in all seriousness, who gets the Circle City shout out this week?
All right. So today's Circle City shout out goes to the STFU Artist Collective. Now, STFU is a multidisciplinary creative group in Indianapolis, and it was founded by local poet Ken Hun. The collective focuses on building community, prioritizing authentic expression, and art for art's sake over commercial constraints. So if you've ever seen anyone who's wearing those shirts that says art for art's sake, that is STFU. So here at the Indianapolis Liberation Center, we have worked with them on a few occasions, and most recently for the Juneteenth Melts Ice open mic and barbecue, or also referred to as Fuck Ice Cream Social. Which,
you're not supposed to swear in here, Dani.
I'm not supposed to swear on here, but also like I just really thought that was so cute and clever, and I was like, I gotta say that one too.
Once you make one exception,
I was like that. There's been more than one exception. That's not true at all. So showcasing, the Juneteenth of open mic was really like showcasing how art can be an act of resistance and demonstrating the connection between the celebration of Freedom Day and Black joy with the continued effort to fight against propaganda in all of its forms. So, there are multiple artists, there were multiple artists, performers, vendors, and the community really showed up and showed out for an evening of care, creativity, and collective support. This event was a response to businesses and institutions that support IMPD and Governor Braun's continued collaboration with ICE Terror. And again, STFU is an art collective. These are artists coming together to fight oppression, to raise the consciousness of our people, to stand up against the state in various forms. The founder actually used to be my niece's high school teacher. You shake your head. And so
there's always some relation.
And
Town, I love it.
We're all connected. Yeah. And so like in that same breath of being like a high school teacher, with their art and these open mics, STFU is educating the people by reminding all of us that standing up, fighting back, and making our voices heard, that can take multiple different forms. So shout out to them and the amazing work that they're doing for the people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, as always, I second that. I was, Dani and I were both tabling earlier that day at Ujamaa. Shout out to Ujamaa for letting us have a table there. And, then we spent the night here with SCFU at that, wonderful event. It was more than a speak out, more than an open mic. The vendor, I had like 3 things of ice cream. Very good.
Ice cream was good.
Yeah. And
I bought some art.
That's what's up. All right. And some books from the store, I know, and some prints myself. But I love collaborating with them because their politics, they don't have a political line, right? They're collective and they each have their individual politics, but they align. They come together and cohere. I'm sure they diverge at points, just like all of ours do. And that's exactly what we're about at the Indianapolis Liberation Center, you know? And it's mutually beneficial. Like, it's amazing to have their people come in here, and all of a sudden they're our people. Yeah. And now all of a sudden, like, we're their people, right? And that's how we build the movement, you know? It's not just like, okay, let's collaborate in this protest. Let's put your logo on and our logo on, and we'll have a speaker from each, and then boom, right? It's really actually just spending time together in the flesh, you know, that makes it like that. So I not to go on too long, but I just wanted to second that. And also kind of a prelude to one of the many upcoming events we have coming up. But this is actually the furthest out, but you should put it on your calendar. On July 25th, from 2 to 5 p.m. at the center, we are really, really honored, incredibly honored, to be hosting the single release party, as well as the video shoot for the single of Pray For Me by Kwame Bean Shakur and Playboy the Great. Now, this is the last single they decided to release off of a collective album. And they decided to release it because it highlights the injustices in Kwame's case, of which there are many. And Beans was Kwame Bean Shakur was a guest on a previous show, episode 23, I believe, season 2. And so we got DJ Nino on the ones and twos. Craig Allen Films will be there. He's encouraging people to bring their toys out for the parking lot. You can't really race, but, you show it off. We're going to be doing a balloon release for Playboy during his verse of the song. And it just means a lot to us, to one, build with Kwame Bean Shakur, who's like continues to do so much work, as a national director of Prison Lives Matter, as a leader in the New African Independence Movement, and as a political prisoner, who we need to free and liberate. And culture is such an excellent way to do it, So I think if you've never been to a video shoot before, whether or not you are comfortable being there or not, just come, because you're going to be comfortable. We'll make you comfortable. Don't worry. This is the people's place, right? This is a liberated space, which means you can be how you want to be, Absolutely. No expectations. So yeah, mark your calendars, July 25th, 2 to 5. But we don't want anybody trying to get up in the, Craig Allen's face with who's got the video camera all the time. So
please don't do that.
We will remove you for that. Unless it's me. No, it's okay. Dani and I are working on a dance. But more immediately, Wednesday, July 8th, so the day you're hearing this, we are doing our July Liberation Flicks. PSL is hosting this month. We're showing Maestra, Spanish for Teacher, which is about the 1961 Cuban literacy brigades, where the Cuban people mobilized and sent thousands or tens of thousands of school-aged children from the city to the countryside to teach illiterate peasants how to read and write. By the end of the year, their literacy rate as a country went from 20% to 96.1%, making them one of the most literate countries on earth. And we see archival footage. We have interviews with former, what they call them, brigadistas. And it's a really powerful documentary. It's short. It's about 30 minutes. So that's my time length. And then we can have a discussion afterwards about the radically different ways we could organize education, And in doing so, they broke down gender roles, challenged patriarchy, the urban-rural divide, and more. Then on Saturday, of course, we have our Circle City Sangha mindfulness meetups. Later on that day, 4 to 6 p.m., we have our Gathering for Gaza, food fellowship and fundraising. We're hosting that event. That's 4 to 6. July 12th, also from noon to 3, is the Levitt Vibe Indianapolis Music Series July concert, which our member organization Arte Mexicano in Indiana puts on with Big Car Collaborative. And then Sunday, we got a lot going on. So starts off at 2 p.m. with Revolutionary Education Reading with Comrades. We are going to be discussing chapters 5, 6, and 8, chapter 4 being optional. And pre-reading is required, although it is encouraged. And then later, from 4 to 5:30 p.m., we have the first of a new series we're doing. It's a support group about living in capitalism. And so basically the premise of this is that, Dani, why don't you maybe fill in here?
I was going to say, are you going to talk about it? Yeah. So living in capitalism. So Derek's asking me because I'm one of the facilitators for this group. I wanted to do this group. And so I got together with a couple of different volunteers here at the center to kind of come up with the premise of it and the curriculum for it. Because there's so many people that I've talked to in my work, but also just like day to day who are feeling, I'll go with the word depressed, and like kind of just downtrodden because of the state of the world, which I think is valid. I think all feelings are valid. But so this group is to come together as a group and talk about that, talk through that with other people who get it as well. But like at the end of it, we're hoping that like we don't just sit in it, right? Because that doesn't really do anything for us. And to be fair, right? Like what's really going to help us feel better is like a revolution and getting rid of capitalism. But like that's not where we are just yet. And so like really what's going to help right now is like being in community with one another. And what does that look like? What does being in community look like? I don't have the answer for that, but hopefully in this group we can find that together. And maybe that looks like, you know, even when this group is done, because it's only going to be it's going to be four different days that we meet. But maybe that'll look like getting together in like a book club, and maybe people come to like revolutionary education. Maybe that looks like, you know, starting a group where you come together and you clean your neighborhood. You know, I don't know what that looks like, but the point is to come together in this group and figure that out as a collective in community with one another. So yeah, that's what the group is. And I will be facilitating along with Comrade Rissa Wilson. This is an ILC event. It is not a PSL event. So you don't have to be a socialist. You don't even have to be interested in socialism to join. You just have to be living in capitalism, which is the name of the group.
All right. So that's all of us.
Yeah.
In the United States anyways. Yeah. Shout out to our listeners in the People's Republic of China and elsewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For real.
I did forget Thursday. We got a lot going on actually. Damn. Thursday, we have our author talk with, I'm excited for this, Anamika Krishnan, whose book, Defining the Moment of Death, Brain Death in India and the United States. That's what the book talk will be on. We'll have copies here. And it's really, really fascinating because death is like, it's conceptualized as like a moment, you know, like, okay, time of death, this thing, right? Mm-hmm. But really, like, we all live somewhere on a spectrum between like life and death, right? Mm-hmm. When we're like really, really sick, we're close to one end of the spectrum. When we're really, really healthy, we're close to another. So I think there's a lot of interesting themes that she's coming at it from an ethics standpoint, you know, but I'm thinking about it from like a disability standpoint where it's like, actually, you know, I read this book, Mel Chen, called Animacies, and it was motivated by, she was like super sick, but she had never felt so alive. And she never felt so like in tuned and observant, you know, even as she couldn't get off the couch, right? So regardless, it's going to be fantastic. And, you know, Anamika is a great volunteer here. She's really open. Like if you don't know anything about this, come. There's no stupid question you can ask, you know. The stupider the better, actually, because then those of, you know, people like me, you'll be like, oh, thank you. I was afraid to ask that.
It's coming from a place of being genuine.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
There's no stupid questions for sure.
Yeah. I mean, don't be a dick, goes without saying, I hope.
Yes. That's what I'm saying.
All right. That's in the footnotes. And then on Sunday, of course, we have our emancipatory motions, yoga for liberation, 6 8 p.m. And there's going to be more after that, so stay tuned.
You will see me there because I'm consistent, because messages me every Sunday.
I saw a picture of you there, yeah.
Did you?
I did. I was looking for you. I was like, there she is. All right. She's not lying. She's not lying to our listeners.
I'm there. Yeah. And I feel stronger every time. Yeah. Like, legitimately, like, and sin is amazing, but yeah. When are you gonna come?
I'll come this month.
This month.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because the main reason is that Sarah's will be out of town. And so usually Sundays we spend together, you know, but since it's summer and she'll be out, I'll be looking for stuff to do. And I've wanted to come because I've seen the first part. I'm like, damn, I need this, you know?
Yeah.
And Senna's so dope. Like she's like just such an incredible person and so smart and like such a good yogi, I guess you call it.
I think it is a yogi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And funny enough, like we have a connection because one of my former students, she works at her like mother. Senna used to work for her mother at like their yoga studio, Invoke Yoga.
So funny. Everybody's connected.
Yeah. Especially in Naptown.
Yeah.
But it's weird because I haven't been here as long as you. And I'm
That's true.
And I'm not even on the real east side, so it's like shit. I'm not even from Naptown.
You're not on the east side at all. Like
That's true. Smack dab. All right. Well, that's it for another episode of Naptown People's Radio. We hope you found this week's discussion useful. We're actually sure you did. But if for some reason you didn't, please let us know and let us know why. And leave us a comment, a like, share. If you have a suggestion for future topics, interviewees, you can hit up our producer, Dakota Fronterhouse, at producer@naptownpeoplesradio.com. And remember, the road ahead is long, but we walk it together. Study with your comrades, build with your people, and always remember, theory without action is paralysis, and action without theory is chaos. Once again, I'm your host, Derek Ford, here with my comrade and lovely co-host,
Dani Abdullah.
Stay dangerous, stay disciplined, and stay in the struggle.
We say all power to the people. That means that we are our own liberators. We don't depend on nobody else. We depend on ourselves. We take responsibility for ourselves, and therefore we step up for our organization. Those that have proven by their actions and their practice that they represent for us. All power to the people and peace.
Collaboration. Like, we act as if there's a scarcity of rights. If gay people get rights, women can't have rights. But that's not true. A victory for one is a victory for all. A dangerous thing, you know? And
you talk about people being fearless in the face of whoever there is. They don't care. To the Liberation Center, I would say, this is what we need.